We're going to talk about respiration. If you're watching this video, then you most likely were prescribed some sort of respiration exercise. And so we're going to walk you through what we've most likely already talked about in the treatment room, but it's always good to have this reminder, or maybe you were referenced to watch this as a day one or a week one or a week two type of exercise. So we're going to talk about what the respiration exercises entail, and then a little bit about why you would do these. So if you've been given the respiration exercise, that's most likely because we picked up some sort of instability in your low back or pelvis, or too much tension into the neck and the kind of the upper extremity, which can cause some compression, can cause some numbness and things like that. So with your respiration exercise, this is what we want you to do. We're going to go through basically 3 steps that you can do. You can do this anywhere. You can do it seated. You can do it in your bed. You can do it on the couch. You can do it in a chair. We're going to start with you basically lying on your back though, because that's the easiest, so that you can feel the changes, and that's important that you feel the changes. So in your bed, on the floor, on the couch, I want you to put your feet up onto the bed, the couch, the floor. And then basically we start with step 1, which is breathe only into the lower hand. So one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly button, and then you take a nice easy breath in only into the lower hand that's on the belly button. So Ryan's just going to take a nice easy breath in. All of this is going to expand. Perfect. And he's going to breathe out. And so another way to think of this is if the belly button was the top of a teepee, you want to kind of fill the top of that teepee up with air. And so that's another way to think about this. What you don't want is you don't want to feel any movement from this top hand, the one that's on your chest. And so his first breath in is just into the belly button. And typically I tell you to do 5 breaths there. And so we're going to do 5 nice, easy breaths. I don't want you to hyperventilate. I don't want these to be too deep yet, because we're just working on the building up of air into the abdominal wall or the abdominal cavity. The second step is to breathe into the side of the rib cage. So what I typically have you do is just kind of press into your rib cage. So lower hands or hands into the lower part of your rib cage here, and then you do the same exact thing. You just breathe into the hands. And this time we're going to breathe kind of out to the side a little bit. So if you have to take a little deeper breath with this, that's okay, because that's kind of what we want now, is we want to be able to breathe into this hoop, this 360-degree hoop. And so it's not only just breathing into the belly up, but we also want to be able to breathe out. This may be a little more difficult, especially if you have a really tight rib cage. So if you're watching this video, you've been given this exercise, and maybe we need to do some work with the adjusting part to get the rib cage mobile enough to be able to do this. So if you can't do this, it's okay. Respiration can take a little while to learn how to do correctly, and really to change it in the brain it could take months, but this is a good starting spot, and it's a good place to start with all of our exercises. So we do 5 breaths here. So to review, we have 5 breaths here with one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. We have 5 breaths on the side of the rib cage, so we're breathing out into the rib cage. And then we're going to try to breathe one hand on the belly, one hand goes underneath on the spine. So if his spine is here, his fingers are underneath, in between these little bony pieces that you feel here, or even in that little crease in your lower back. And so now what we want you to do, and what Ryan is going to show us how to do, is to breathe into the top hand and the bottom hand. And if you have a hard time getting your shoulder in that position, that's fine. Take a pillow or a towel, put it underneath the low back, so in the little curve of your back, because we want to try to flatten that against the surface, and breathe into that. And so we do 5 of those there. So we do 5 here and here. We do 5 into the rib cage laterally, and we do 5 nice easy breaths into the belly and into the back. That's going to give us that 360-degree hoop. Lastly, if you've been given this and you've talked about some pelvic instability, maybe it's a postpartum issue, maybe we're having some just lower pelvis type issues, pelvic insufficiency of the pelvic floor, then what we'll typically have you do is grab one knee, kind of bring it in a little bit to the chest. We don't want to pull it all the way in, and then we want you to breathe into this crease that's created by the hip. So let's switch sides so you can kind of see the crease. So we're here. So we want him to breathe into basically the pocket or the belt or that little crease that's created by the hip and the abdomen. And we'll do 5 breaths there. And so typically what we want to do is we want to fill this intra-abdominal cavity with air. So if this is our spine, the reason why we do this and why this is important, you may think it's kind of odd that I talked about respiration during your visit, but we want you to fill this cavity full of air. And so what stabilizes our spine is the ability to fill this abdominal cavity with air. So if you think of it as a balloon and the rib cage wraps around this balloon, then this is what creates spine stability and pelvic stability. It's not a crunch, it's not a contraction of the abs, it's not a Kegel. Those things can help with the coactivation of the muscle, but ultimately we want this balloon to fill with air so the muscles can push against it from all directions, from the top, from the sides, from the bottom, and from the back. And that's what stabilizes your spine, and that's why we have you doing these really simple exercises that don't seem like they make a lot of sense to you right now, but that's why we do it, is because what creates core and pelvic stability is the muscles pushing against something, and that something is what we call intra-abdominal pressure, which is breathing into the lower part of your abdomen and into your pelvis. And so if you were given this exercise, then we would like you to do this for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even a month, and then we'll start to add things onto it. Thank you.